What's going on, y'all? It's JD Piquel. Today on the Hard Count, we're in week 2 of the college football season. We're going to make some picks. Welcome to 365 Sports. Subscribe to the channel. We want you here. We want you along with us as we jump into the beautiful thing that is college football season. You're not going to want to miss a minute of it. 24/7 coverage you can't get anywhere else on this YouTube channel. The Hard Count being a very small part of that. So we're grateful you're here along for the ride. Week 1. I don't really even know where to start or where to end, but there was a lot of movement in the just craziness that was week 1. Texas is back. Question mark. Clemson's playoff playoff hopes, I should say, are seemingly dashed. Georgia's maybe the top dog. Alabama's to Alabama. Lots to unpack. That's the SparkNotes version of it. I don't necessarily agree that Clemson's playoffs hopes are dashed. We'll get to that in a later video. Bottom line, we got a lot of exciting stuff for week 2. It's not necessarily the same jam-packed Power 5 ranked matchups across the board that we saw in week 1. But there's still a lot of games to look at, a lot of games to be excited about, and no shortage of impact on the playoff race across the board in what we have this upcoming week. First and foremost, Oregon at Ohio State. Number 11, Oregon goes to Columbus. Ohio State is favored by 10 points. Oregon last week needed all 4 quarters to get past Fresno State. Now, Fresno State's a good team. My question is Anthony Brown dynamic enough? Is he a good enough passer? Does he allow your offense to be as vertical as you need them to be to make the playoff push that they think they're going to be able to make? They weren't as effective as they needed to be last week against Fresno State. So let's just stay there. Kayvon Thibodeau potentially could play, potentially could not play, listed as day-to-day. My gut says he's not going to play, which would be a huge loss for the Ducks, having your best defensive player and the best player in America by a lot of reports to not play in this game would be a huge detriment to your team. But all that to say, I think Oregon needs some things to kind of go right for them in this game after they got a slow start in week 1. Ohio State's kind of the same story. They got off to a slow start against Minnesota. That was on the road. A lot of young players. C.J. Stroud made his first start. Took them all of a half to get going. Minnesota had a running back that got hurt who's one of the best in the country, in my opinion. So the fact that they were able to catch a break in that regard maybe changes that game just a little bit. But bottom line, Ohio State and Oregon were both kind of catching their rhythm a week ago. So the thing that I'm looking at in this game, can Ohio State ask C.J. Stroud to win the game for them? Can they ask him to make the big play for them? Because I think that Oregon's going to want to run the football, whether it's Anthony Brown, whether it's Verdell. They're going to want to run the football and play good defense. I don't think we'll see them be a high-flying, all-gas, no-brakes kind of offense. I think we're going to see them kind of play within their system, methodically play ping-pong, if you will, and force Ohio State to be the one that makes mistakes or be the one that beats them. So for Ohio State, can you get out in front? Can you be explosive on offense? Can C.J. Stroud be your guy for you that steps up? Because he needs to grow up in a hurry. I think he's got all the physical tools in the world. We did a film breakdown on him. Go ahead and check that out if you haven't. I think he's got all the tools to be the guy for Ohio State. Was last week just kind of a getting your feet wet situation for C.J. Stroud, and maybe he's going to now get the hang of it against Oregon in his first home start? Or is that kind of a foreshadowing of things to come? They're just going to have him be the game manager, make wide open passes. And granted, he can make the wide open passes. He's got the arm talent to throw it all over the field. But do they trust him enough to open it up and have him be the guy that beats Oregon? I think that, truthfully, Oregon doesn't have enough horses to run with Ohio State. I think C.J. Stroud does take the next step in this game. And I think Ohio State's able to win this game by forcing Oregon to be one-dimensional on the offensive side of the ball. Then C.J. Stroud takes the next step enough for them to get past them. I don't know that I love them with the 10. That's kind of a big number, so I'm going to stay off that, but I think Ohio State does get it done. Next, the Iowa Hawkeyes at Iowa State. I haven't seen Iowa and Ohio State play just yet, but Iowa State is favored by 4.5. College game day will be there. This will be in Ames. Again, this is the Cy-Hawk rivalry, which is, anybody who knows anything about college football knows there's a lot of passion, a lot of heart, a lot of emotion that goes into this game. This is for the entire state. Bragging rights, 365 days a year, and it's happening in week 2. Iowa State looked very human a week ago. Beat Northern Iowa by 6 points. Breece Hall had 69 yards on 23 carries. Brock Purdy was efficient, but they didn't really open the playbook up for him too much. Didn't ask him to push the ball downfield too much. He was efficient. For Iowa, it was the other side of the story. They were dominant. Defense created 2 touchdowns of their own on pick sixes. They ran the ball really well. Tyler Goodson had virtually he had 100 yards. He had 99, but we're not going to be petty on this show. Tyler Goodson had 100 yards rushing more or less. Spencer Petras, the quarterback for Iowa, was pretty underwhelming for me. I'm concerned about him going into this game. 13 of 27 a week ago, 48% completion percentage. You got to make the passes against Iowa State. You got to be able to be two-dimensional against this Iowa State defense because they're not going to give you anything easy. So for Iowa State, can you force Iowa to be one-dimensional on offense? And then I think both teams are going to try and run the football. Like, that's understood. Who's going to be able to throw the football? I think that Iowa State with Brock Purdy and the weapons they have with Kolar and Allen, there's enough firepower in my mind at Iowa State to be able to put them over, especially the fact that this is a home game and they kind of have that come-to-Jesus moment in their first week. I think Iowa State's able to get the win this week against Iowa. I'm taking Iowa State. Texas at Arkansas. This is a fun one because it's an SEC preview. Arkansas took care of business a week ago, ran the ball for 245 yards. Traylon Smith had over 100. They didn't really try to throw the football too much. They didn't really have to. Texas came out with a bang. Like, we were watching Texas in week 1. How are they going to look against Louisiana? They're favored by 9.5. Is that too much? Texas blew that number out of the water, beating Louisiana by double digits. Granted, that was a home game. They now have to go on the road. They have to go to Arkansas in an SEC environment against Sam Pittman and the gang and try and get it done. Hudson Card looked really efficient in that first start, so I'm excited to see him if he can potentially get a little more rain as now the guy for Texas. They did kind of a 2-quarterback system, so to speak. Casey Thompson played a little bit, but it's Hudson Card's job. It's Hudson Card's team. And then Bijan Robinson played absolutely lights out, was all over the field for them, lining up at slot receiver, taking handoffs. I mean, he did everything for them a week ago. I think he needs to get a heavy dose of the football this week for them to be successful against Arkansas. What it comes down to for me, can Arkansas run the ball against Texas? Because I'm not convinced that Arkansas can do pretty much anything else offensively. I don't think they want to do anything else offensively, but can this Texas defense show up like they did a week ago against Louisiana and hold this Arkansas offense to just having to pass the football? Because if they can do that, I think Texas has got a shot to blow this game wide open. Texas minus 4.5 is the line. I like that a lot, honestly. I think Texas covers that. But bottom line, I just think Texas has too much firepower. I think if they can turn this into a track meet like they want to in the early going, it might be done early for Arkansas. Just my opinion. You don't have to take it, but that's where I stand on Texas. I'm really, really high on them right now, especially the fact they got the quarterback situation all worked out. The Holy War. Utah at BYU. Utah is favored by 7. BYU looked good last week. BYU's got a new quarterback in Jaron Hall, and he is dynamic. Obviously, Algier did his thing at running back, had about 94 yards rushing against Arizona, who's a Pac-12 team. Like, they're no slouch of a program. That's no slouch of a win to beat Arizona like they did a week ago. But my biggest realization was, okay, they got a game breaker at quarterback. He's a guy that can hurt you with his legs. Throwing the football remains to be seen. I don't think that's really his strength of his game, but what he does running the football presents a lot of problems for defenses. For Utah, you got a new quarterback in Charlie Brewer, obviously the pride of Waco, pride of Baylor, now making his graduate transfer to Utah. Looked good in the opener. They had a delay for weather, which is always a weird situation for any team to have to sit in the locker room and let time pass after you just warmed up, started playing a game, and then you come off the field because of a weather delay. Charlie Brewer looked good. Utah looked good. They won the game pretty handily against Weber State. I think that if Utah can allow Charlie Brewer to get more in a rhythm early going, if they can support him with the run game, Charlie Brewer has a chance, I think, to take over this game, and I think that Utah has a chance to win this game pretty handily. 7 is, again, a big number. Call me a chicken because I just said they win it handily. I think they win. I don't know that I'm taking 7. But I like Utah to beat BYU, especially if they can hold Jaron Hall to not be two-dimensional. If they can force him to just throw the football and make him beat you that way, contain the running game of BYU, I think Utah has a really good chance to win this game. Washington at Michigan. Michigan's favored by 1.5. Listen, if you watched college football last week, you know that Washington lost to Montana, and that's just egregious. Their quarterback, Dylan Morris, did not look good, threw 3 interceptions. Their last 12 offensive drives, they got no points. And then on the other side of the coin, Michigan looked electric. Now, they had Ronnie Bell, their star receiver, go down for the year, which is heartbreaking if you're a Michigan fan. But I think you might have found something here with Cade McNamara. Granted, it wasn't anyone who was, worth writing home about when it comes to winning football games, but still, Michigan, you had outstanding offensive output in that first game. If they can do anything similar to that in this game against Washington, I think they're going to win. So I like Michigan. I like them with the 1.5 too. I think Michigan wins this game by more than that. I think Cade McNamara really is your guy. I want to see him take that next step in this game. Said that a few times in this video. I want to see these quarterbacks after their first start. Are you more comfortable? Are you able to go week to week in a different game plan? Because now you didn't have the whole offseason to prep for one team. Now you're week to week going team to team, game plan to game plan. Can you take that next step, process a game plan, process a defense, and be able to, obviously, like I said, take the next step? So for Cade McNamara, I think that's huge for him, and I do think he does that, and I do think they beat Washington. So again, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Tell us in the comment section what you want to hear. Go back and forth with me. If you think that all these are just stupid, tell me. Tell me straight to my face. Tell me straight to the comment section. A lot of you have done a great job of doing that already, so I appreciate that. We're going to keep this party rolling. We're going to do picks every single week and talk about the games that are supposed to be talked about, because this is the greatest thing ever that is college football. So again, we'll keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.